everyone! My name is Miss Olivia and I work from the Boys and Girls Club Columbus Elementary location, and I'm so excited to read to you guys part 1 of March On, The Day My Brother Martin Changed the World by Christine King Farris, with permission from Scholastic. I hope you guys enjoy. My brother Martin never bragged. Martin was always very modest. When we were growing up, Mother dear and Daddy taught all of us, Martin, our little brother, Alfred Daniel, and me, Christine, to do good for others. They told us not to be chesty about doing right. Don't go sticking out your chest, all puffed up and proud. Mother dear often said, chesty is not the way to be. So, even though Martin got a load of attention for protesting and for speaking out, he couldn't have imagined how many people would have come to the Great March on Washington for jobs and freedom in 1963. But they did come, from northern cities like Detroit and Chicago, from southern cities like Birmingham, Atlanta, and Memphis. They came from small towns too, from places such as Danville, Virginia, and Albany, Georgia, and Orangeburg, South Carolina. Some of them rode the buses, others came on the train. A bunch walked all the way from Brooklyn, more than 230 miles away. One man strapped on his skates and rolled into Washington, D.C. on that warm day, August 28th, 1963. They all came to the Washington Monument, just as the sun began its slow, hot dance across the sky. They came to hear Martin and other civil rights leaders inspire a nation. They came because they believed that all people should be treated equally. They came because they wanted to belong. They came in search of one thing, freedom. They came to march. Martin traveled to Washington, D.C. the night before he was to give his speech. They had come from Atlanta, Georgia, where our family lived. He checked into the Willard Hotel so that he could prepare his speech in a quiet place with no interruptions. My brother worked very hard on his speeches. He understood how important each and every one of his words would be. He wrote them and scratched them out. He wrote down some more. Martin practiced reading his speeches over and over again. He stayed up all night in his hotel room. Not once did he stop to eat or even lay his head down on his pillow for a quick nap. That was Martin. Even if he'd wanted to sleep, he couldn't. The words of his speech kept him awake. His speech wouldn't let him rest. Martin was still writing when the sun came up. He was still making changes and corrections to his speech. The hours passed quickly. The time was rushing ahead very fast. Afternoon was not far off. Soon it would be time to deliver his speech. My brother always liked putting the final touches on his words before he spoke them publicly. So he read his speech quietly to make sure it conveyed the message he wanted his listeners to hear. When Martin washed his face and changed into one of his best dark suits, Martin was a third-generation preacher. Our grandfather, the Reverend A.D. Williams, and our daddy, whose name was also Martin, had taught us King children many lessons about being an effective leader. They had told us to always be prepared with our best clothes when making public appearances. So even though it was a hot summer day, Martin wore a clean, starched shirt and tie. He tucked his speech into his breast pocket. He was ready. Martin met up with the organizers of the march, some of the most respected civil rights leaders of the day. James Farmer, John Lewis, A. Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, Roy Wilkins, and Whitney Young. Together, they headed over to the Capitol to talk to a delegation from Congress about passing a law that would have black people treated the same as white people. While Martin met with the leaders, the marchers gathered at the foot of the Washington Monument, where they listened to the great singers of the time sing freedom songs such as Blown in the Wind and We Shall Overcome. This was how the march began. Once most of the people had come together, they started to march toward the Lincoln Memorial, where the day's most electrifying speakers and entertainers were gathered. They were students and poor people. Christians walked arm in arm with Jewish people. Black people held hands with white people. And even though they were from very different worlds, they were all marching for the same reason. Oh, it was a sight to see. I had been to many marches with my brother Martin, but it was clear from the beginning this one was special. Finally, someone rushed to the room where Martin and the others were meeting. "Dr. King, look out the window!" Martin rubbed his eyes and peeked through the curtain. He could hardly believe what he saw. There was a blanket of people walking shoulder to shoulder. They were all kinds of folks, looking like patches of color in a great quilt, spread over the National Mall in Washington. There were thousands, chanting, wanting, ready, marching. I hope you guys enjoyed part 1 of March On, the Day My Brother Changed the World. Check back for part 2, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.